Good morning. My name is Smart Ebuchulem. With student number 300 333 966. That is 300 333 966. This is my presentation for the term project in CSIS 3290, that is Fundamentals of Machine Learning. For this project, I analyzed a real estate data set from Connecticut to United States, which span the years 2021 to 2022. So as you can see, these are the imports of the files, the libraries, sorry, that I used. And here I'm loading the data sets and displaying a few information about it. And then I actually found this data set useful because it had features such as the price. It had features such as the assessed value, town, property type, and these were needed for predicting accurately a good uh, making good predictions in the real estate markets. And it's also publicly available on the United States government website. That is uh, the official website of the United States, and it's being managed by the Policy and Management Office of Connecticut. So going straight to the presentation, um, the first part of the presentation, in the first part of this presentation, I'm going to talk about my prediction, or I'm going to talk about the preparation I did for the data, which I tried to prepare by dropping null values, and then I went ahead to make the data friendly, replacing empty spaces with underscores, and then I went ahead to also reset the index, reshape, and check for the shape and knowing what exactly I'm working with. At this current point, it's about 200,000 in length, which is still much. Initially, the data set was about a million rows, but then by cleaning, I was able to bring it down. So here, I'm also further dropping it down. I'm also further dropping the column list here, which brought down the number of columns in the data set. Now going to the exploratory data analysis, I try to look at some things like the percentiles of the data set. So I looked at the percentiles when it comes to the uh, the uh, the pricing, that is. So both the price, that is the sales amount, the assessed value of it, the sales ratio, and as well as the longitude, latitude. This all came out in the percentiles, which were checking both from zero point 0.1 down to 0.99. So after doing all of this, and I found out that plotting the actual values on a plot wasn't going to give me a very realistic plot. So I had to use the log value. So I turned them into log values and then plotted them. This is the log of the assessed value. This is the log of the sale amount. So I plotted these and then it gave me this, but then it was still skewed. As you can see, some of the values starting from 0.0. And of course, real estate doesn't start from that amount. So I had to remove some of the values which were outliers. So I removed those that were less than 5% and those that were more than 95%. These were outliers. So when I removed these, and I replotted the sales and the assessed value, and they give me this much refined graph. So here I have I try to analyze some of the values, like the highest prices of the house and the lowest prices, as well as some of the things they have, like the mean, the median, and the standard deviation, all under exploratory data analysis. And then after that, I started plotting. I plotted the sale amount against the assessed price to visualize the accuracy of the assessments. So that gave me this scatter plot with its line plot, which is pretty accurate, given that the predictions were made the assessment, sorry, was made for a given price of a house. Then I had to plot other things like uh, the sale amounts as against the individual property types, and this is what the plot looks like. Then I had a box plot for the sale amounts, which showed which could easily be used to get the interquartile range and the other values from the plots. So leaving this and going straight to the predictions. In the predictions, tried to use I used uh, I used in prediction. I used ridge regression. Sorry, it skipped my mind. I used ridge regression because it had a better, it provides a better prediction for the data sets, and it's using the cross validation, which the grid using grid search and cross validation, I was able to find a better or the best alpha values, which would give the best results for the prediction. So after doing this, going with the alpha value of ranges from 0.01 to 100, and then um, using the parameters which shown above here, is actually the only alpha was used here in this case, and then using the scoring as neg mean square error and a cross validation of value of 3, which would at least save time. It gave the RMSE value of 57,543 as the deviation. So that means the houses which ranged from around less than 100,000 to more than a million. When the prediction was made, it went off by $57,000, which is not too much considering that many of the houses were above 1 million. And then the root mean square was 91%, which is also pretty good because it showed that 91% of the predictions were accurate. And then again, I dropped the value of I dropped the use of the log of the assessed value because during prediction it gave me a lower accuracy, so I couldn't use it for prediction accurately. So I had to drop the log value of the assessed value and use only the real value of assessed value. Now for classification, I used for the classification I use support vector machine to do my classification. My reason for choosing support vector was because it's robust and it also helps in classifying data that is, in more than one plane, and it gives a detailed, it gives a very robust classification. But as it turned out, it wasn't very effective in this classification, in the classification of this data set, because for one, I had to reduce the size to 10,000, as I've shown here, to 10,000 samples because the uh, the data set was about 100,000 or more than 100,000 when I finished the cleaning. And using that data set would take hours to train to predict with SVM. So I had to reduce data sets to about 10,000 so it could work. But in doing that, I noticed that the prediction was off, um, likely because of that reduction, and also likely because the features in the data set were not as much as it should be. Maybe the features, the columns were not as precise to give enough prediction. Maybe if they had predictions that included the size of the property, for example, if it's a landed property, lot size, or if it's a house, the square footage, this could help better to classify what property it was. But in any case, it gave a very poor prediction for the classification using support vector machine. I still use grid search for this, and then the score was about 65% accuracy, and then the precision was about 0.25. The recall was 0.15, which is pretty poor, but then likely from the data sets. So what I did gain from this, what I understood from this uh, project was that the the results depend on the model type used, depends on the modeling used, depends on things like efficiency brought in by the grid search, but then as well as the data set being used. Data sets can also affect how the prediction goes or how well the model does. So for this particular data set, I think for this data set, I think that the model I used for it, that is the support vector machine, wasn't very good for the data set. I might have chosen another data set if I had noticed this on time, but because time was running out, I couldn't change data sets and go for another thing. But then that was what I noticed from this project. So here's my presentation, and thank you very much for the time.